Good afternoon.
Hi Tom,
How are you?
how you doing?
Very good. I apologise for the inconvenience of delaying it. I had 2 seconds before I was about to go on air. I had a complete technical meltdown.
Don't worry. I know how it is.
So how you been?
Yeah, so good, thanks. Yeah.
So how did you go into ghost hunting then?
Right then. Well, that's a long story. I was interested in the supernatural from a small child.
Yeah.
Being at school, I remember having a book called the Osborne Book of Ghosts, which was really popular. It's actually just been re-released over the last few years. And it told you some ghost hunting techniques, and myself and a few friends tried it out. Uh, Told you the stories of Harry Price and Borley Rectory, with places like that. And then, yeah, years later, after starting work, the early days of the internet, actually, I came across a group called Ghosts UK, not around anymore.
All right.
And I joined up with them. We went round to a few places. Dudley Castle, a place called Chingle Hall in Preston. Loads of places. Then I started my own group up after a while from my hometown, Ghosts of Greenwich, and we collected stories, just the local investigations, and that was it really. I don't do it anymore. I just collect stories and tell them.
So you don't actually do your own investigations. You write a story about them.
Yeah, I just find out about haunted locations now, and I look into the history and the ghost stories behind them, and I just tell the stories, produce it as a podcast.
Huh.
Well, I've only just started. So,
So, would you like change your material then? Is there, would you continue doing what you do, or would you mix up a bit? If podcast wasn't exactly most popular. What I mean by that is, if say for instance, pranks was becoming more popular, would you probably do that, or would you continue doing your tales?
I'd probably keep doing the ghost tales. I mean, primarily, I'm a musician,
Oh,
um, and from over the years, where I've picked up different skills from filmmaking, producing. That's why I went into the podcast really, um, because I can write my own music, and I used to be a researcher at one time as well. So it all just fit in together, and I thought, well, I could do all of it in one go.
So how do you collect these stories then? Do you go visiting like abandoned places and you try and write a description about them, or does it all come to your mind at that moment?
No, what I do is I'll either read a lot of books, or it's places I've visited in the past, and then I research them. I'll buy history books of the areas. Look online. There's always an abundance of information online, as we all know.
So look at Wikipedia.
Yeah, Wikipedia will be one of them. Not always the best reliable source, but
No, it's not. Um, so it's quite fascinating really because I have interviewed another ghostwriter actually, Erin from Haunted of America last month, and I'm surprised really because most people adapt to ghost hunting, but in different formats. Like you novel it, and so did she did last month when I interviewed her. So would you think that it's probably timely to do that, or would you think it's more timely doing an investigation?
well, I don't know really. I think they all go hand in hand anyway. I think anybody who's interested in the investigations or the stories is usually interested in other areas too, other medias. It's like if you're interested in ghosts, you'll probably watch ghost programs on the TV. Ghost Hunters being the big one.
Yeah.
I don't know. My favourite TV series was from the 90s called Ghost Hunters. And there was another one called Great British Ghosts with Michaela Strachan. I really liked those. They don't do any investigations really. It's just telling ghost stories, and that's where my forte is really. But I have been asked recently to start doing some investigations.
Huh.
So I might dabble a little bit here and there.
You might see if you can pick up on it, is it, and see if you can adapt it to your own work.
That's it, yeah. That would be my plan.
So, you know, how long did it take then to write a novel and distribute it? How do you like get it on sale, that sort of thing? Or is it like an internet copybook?
Right. Okay. I don't release anything as books. It's just purely as the podcast.
Oh, so it's like an internet podcast.
Yeah. To write and research. What I usually do as I'm researching, I'm reading, just constantly reading, and it can take anything from a day to 3 days for a 20-minute podcast, just to do the research and write the notes, and then I write a draft, and then I write everything out, which it probably takes me about a week to do all of that. Then going into the recording process, recording the narration. That's quite easy. That'll probably take me an hour, and then the long part afterwards, the long process then is producing it, and that's only because I write the music. I've written music for films in the past, so I do it in the same way, and I also add my own sound effects. So it's more of a production.
So, you know, do you do this all by yourselves then, or do you have like a team members help you? Because I can't imagine, you know, doing multiple projects. So, like writing a song, for instance, and then writing a novel. Do you find that quite stressful, or do you do it in your own time as and when?
Yeah, it's all completely done on my own, and I just do it as and when.
Not you're not on a timetable.
No, I couldn't follow
um, have you started? Have you have you ever wanted to have a YouTube channel then?
I've just started one.
So what would that be about exactly?
Well, at the moment, it's just going to be the podcast itself.
So you're going to distribute the podcast to YouTube?
Yeah, at the end of this month, the first one will be going up. But I'm looking at expanding a little bit more as well. With as I was saying, I've been asked to do some investigations as well. So I'm thinking of expanding the YouTube channel and integrating the investigation side into it for a bit of fun.
So you're going to film the investigations, but on a YouTube channel. Not only that, you're going to release the podcast on there too.
Yeah, I'm looking at using the same channel. Yeah.
It's going to be. So what have you found of a catchy name then? You know, Ghost Tales will probably be thinking you're going to read someone a bedtime story. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think the person who's asked me to do the investigations, I think they've got their own group. I'm not quite sure yet. They've been away, so I haven't had a chance to speak to them. But I think they're talking in the next few months that'll be starting up. So I'm not quite sure where we're going there. Yeah. Not sure where we're going with it yet. Should be a bit of fun.
Are you going to like invite somebody on your show then, that sort of thing? You're going to, you know, message round, see if anyone's going to be interested in your podcast, or is the podcast purely you giving them a story and that sort of thing? So you like being a solo podcaster, like you know, you being the podcaster yourself without having any guests, or is guests going to join your podcast with you?
It'll just be me, just myself telling the stories for the podcast. When it comes to the investigation side, that's where I'm thinking of inviting people. I've got quite a few good contacts, pretty well known in the paranormal circle. So I'd like to try and get some of those involved if I can. Interesting.
So yeah, you know, if you do work as a paranormal investigator, will that really take some time off? Because you know, being a paranormal investigator, you got to put more time into that because you know you can do both. But like I said, time would be very very tough to handle and have some relaxed time out of it because paranormal exploring would require practically all day because you got to put more time into that to make it look real Because believe it or not, actually, paranormal investigations are really on the trend at the moment, and podcasts in the sense of paranormal, they're not really picking up the attention that if you did your own investigations, if you know what I mean.
That's it. Yeah, that's something I've been looking into actually. I've noticed with the investigations, when you look at things like Amazon Prime, there's a lot of people creating loads of video content and putting it on there now. I don't think there's a great deal of money to be made in it, but I think a lot of it's just for fun. But yeah, it is time consuming. The video editing side just alone,
Yeah,
that can take longer than investigation.
yeah, because you guys isn't, people think it's quite controversial because people think it's how much time you put into the investigation. It's kind of both. You've got to put probably, believe it or not, 55% on the investigation and 55% on the actual marketing to get the video up to scratch. So believe it or not, you've got to put 110% in if you're going into that field. If you don't, you're not going to get that viewing. You're not going to get that attention. So it's important to realise that if you are going to do both, you're probably going to be free practically every single day. Because if your concentration slips, that's where the effect on your viewingship will slightly dwindle.
Yeah, that is exactly it. I've found that in my music in the past actually. Well, I've written music for, well, God knows how many years. When I used to work as a session musician in recording studios. And if I had a bad week where I've got other things, I was involved in so many different projects. And yeah, it's exactly that. I would get involved in one particular project, and then all of a sudden I'm being paid to do something else, and you can tell the difference in the quality of what I'm doing. Unless you're putting the time in for it to anything, it's never going to be great.
So would you want to be like a singer then? Because as you said, you were a musician. So would you want to be a singer or, or on the X Factor? You could have great potential.
No, I'm a guitarist. I started off as just playing guitar as a kid, as a teenager, and I went into teaching professionally and professional session work in studios and on stage for different people. Great when you get paid for it.
So you would entertain people if you would want to. It's just you wouldn't voluntarily do it.
No, not anymore.
All right. So if you started around like 500 subscribers then, or if you went up to like 1,000, what would you do more of? Because as you do, you are doing a mix. So it's important you've got to give 110%, of each. Otherwise, you're not going to get that high viewership. So it's important to plan ahead. What would 500 subscribers bring to the channel? Because as every subscriber comes to you, you've got to do more and more and more and more of it. Like if you get 1,000, you could be earning. So give us a sense really of what a year will bring for that.
Well, for the podcast, I would rather do that than anything because it involves all the different things I'm interested in. It involves my music and production, which they're all hobbies as well as work. So I think that's where I lie really. Unless somebody else is doing the filming, I'd work on film. But yeah, that's it's the music and production is the 100% one for me.
So you like to create music and produce it then?
Sorry?
You like to write your music and produce it?
I do, yeah. And the same with the podcast where it's not just the music. I'm creating. It's almost like a film without the visions, without the visuals. I'll create. If I'm describing somebody walking, you'll hear the footsteps, and I've done it all in 3D surround sound, so they'll actually walk past you.
So you can actually make it look real, even though it's a soundtrack.
Yeah, it's well, filming it would be a different thing. Yeah. I've done a bit in the past, and it's hard work.
So give us a sense then of the podcast. So how do you write the stories then? Do you like, it could these stories? Don't you think it's like a weeks long project, depending on which one you write it? It kind of an actual bedtime story for even a children's they probably vary between 50 to 100 pages or a picture book. Isn't that like sort of a weeks long project if you take as much time as you can with it?
It is, yeah, easily. Well, for instance, I've just worked on the podcast. Next podcast I'm releasing is probably going to be about 20 to 25 minutes long. It's got about 3,000 words in it.
Oh God.
Yes, there's quite a bit of content. Um, Plus, I've written all the music, I've tailored the music specifically for that podcast, for that episode, and created all the sound effects. So yeah, altogether, it's probably actually took me about 2 weeks. It's not quite finished yet. But
Oh Christ.
on my own, it's quite a lot of work. But I'm
Um,
only looking at releasing one a month at the moment.
yeah, that'd be better off because otherwise, I think you probably would want to bang yourself against the wall thinking, help me, help me.
Just a bit, yeah, just a bit.
Um,
Luckily, at the moment, where we're all in a lockdown, it's made it a bit easier, and I've given myself a head start. So that's good.
has it affected you then? Because it's affected pretty much all of us. I mean, in Wales at the moment, we're still living in a lockdown area and practically all the UK is actually now following suit.
Yeah.
So I'm just asking, though, really, on a general level, has that affected you from doing what you do best?
No, not really. It doesn't because I'm mainly working home anyway.
Yeah.
So it would have affected me a year ago. I used to have a studio about a year ago, and just before I left it, just before the lockdown started last year.
Oh God, that's
Um,
lucky then, isn't it? That's rather lucky.
yeah, it was, yeah. And other people who've got studios around the same building complex, they weren't allowed in there during the lockdown because the toilets are shared. So of course, if you could go into the studio, but you couldn't use the toilet. So they locked everything up.
Oh
So
right,
all the
okay.
people who were working had all their equipment in there, and they couldn't work. So I was lucky and got out, which is a nice thing for me. Set as
That's
well.
quite hilarious, that is actually, in fairness.
Yeah.
So so as your hobbies then is practically writing ghost tales and stories, have you ever considered some thought really of probably using that creativity like doing a picture book? Because like you said, you can write music, you can write all the sound effects and all that sort of thing. So would it be better off like writing like say a picture book, like so you can actually see it? I'm just trying to think because you like doing ghost tales. I just think because as you said, it takes like 3,000 words on the podcast you're working and still haven't exactly completed it. So would it be better off to use that creativity in something that we can see and explore?
Well, it's an area I've looked at actually, but it's just making the process longer for myself, adding more things to it. So, but
Well, if you get 500 subscribers and they all want the same, you can't say no then, can you?
that's it. No. I think I'd have to get some help, get somebody to help me.
Employ W.
Uh,
Smiths, I think they'd be delighted to work with you.
sorry?
Employ some shop workers from W. Smiths. I think they've got some very good ideas to give you.
Yeah, probably.
Um,
But,
so think of it then on a financial field then. Would you like to earn off YouTube or would you like to earn on what you're doing, like writing your novels? I mean, most people, do those sort of hobbies with an incentive of earning. So do you have that incentive? Would you do it for years down the line if you're not exactly cashing in the check or, would you hack it in? What would you do?
well, I don't know. If it took off, I would go with it. But I'm not going to push anything. I'm just doing it as a hobby, just something to do. really, because I have my other work with my music. So if it comes along and I'm somebody, if people, or if it's in demand, I'll do it. I will do it.
Well, I think that would be very, very cool to even see and witness. Because you can create your own sound effects. So putting everything in detail and getting some very good photographs, if it's within your local area, of course. That probably
Yeah,
would be a great setup.
it would. Yeah, it would.
Not only that, even autobiographies, or you could say you could write about your life or something. If you get probably 600 subscribers, even it's not on an earning strategy, that's when you could be writing like an autobiography and trying to distribute it to Direct Smiths or the bookshops or anything like that. Because I think, if you're doing great with each podcast as you are at the moment, you're taking a month to do one, and if it's great in that month, then that's fantastic. Because it's not an easy process. But I think if you was becoming to a novelist in a picture book sort of initiative, I think that would very hook off.
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah. I'll have to have a look at it. Look into it. But I've got some members of family are photographers and artists, so I am surrounded by people who are creative. So perhaps I might be able to get some help if I should have a chat with some of those.
Um, so have
So
you have you had any collaborations there since on your projects?
I haven't no only my music, but anything to do with the paranormal, no, done it all on my own
So
so far.
you've done all the paranormal stuff on your own at this precise moment.
Yeah, except the when I used to go out and do investigations, I used to do it in a team. But the stuff I do online is all completely on my own.
Well, don't read false information because that won't give your novel a very good look on light.
No, I know.
Wikipedia is one to avoid because they're not exactly trusted sources.
Yeah, it's working on my own. I produced a small film last year with a friend, and it was about ghosts. It was the ghost stories, true ghost stories from around the area where I live in Redditch, in Worcestershire. Um, the film was about 40 minutes long, and I didn't have a camera at the time, so it was a friend of my kids, friend of my son's, had a camera, so she came and help me. Then I went and bought the camera, and we were literally we just threw ourselves into this bit of filmmaking, both completely amateur. We learned how to edit very quickly. Loads of YouTube videos to study. And then I ended up getting different people to help me to play parts of ghosts. So as I was telling the story, the ghosts would walk past or in the right places, and I would actually film in the locations, which it worked quite well. It worked brilliant. It was okay. And that was my first attempt at narration. So that was an experience, but I learned quite a lot from that.
So in fairness, then you're like the best narrator for your projects.
I'm not, no. No, not at all.
Ah, right.
I know of people, but I'd have to pay them.
Yeah, you would. So with this internet, then, because the internet is both good and bad. Have you had like any vicious comments of people who probably haven't got anything else better to do with their weekend? I thought because it is in
Not
trend
really.
with YouTubers and podcasters, I just thought, as that trend went on to you and, that sort of thing.
No, I've had a little bit from the film I made. Actually, I had a comment, and it was quite humorous, really. So they just said, "Am I expecting to believe this is real?" Well, no, obviously not.
um,
But yeah, that's the only. I didn't see it as negative. I found it as humorous. Um,
so, you don't let the negativity affect your project, which is a great thing, because, if anyone just writes a comment and you just hacked in the towel, that is not a great thing to do, you see.
But another one I'd forgot about actually. We had a photo taken for the local newspaper for an article after we'd made the film. And of course, I've got my wife on one side of me on the photo, and the girl who helped film, she's on the other side of me, and they've both got their arms around me. It was a pose for the newspaper. So of course it went online, and there's a page, a website. I can't remember what it's called, but it's where everybody takes the mick out the news. And of course they've got hold of this picture in this article, and they've put what's his name, the guy from the Uncle Fester. They put Uncle Fester's face on me from the Adams Family. With a light bulb coming out of my mouth. I thought it was brilliant, but I mean they really sort of nick out. I commented on it. So that's absolutely brilliant. Yeah. So I love anything like that. Any publicity is good publicity. Whether it's if somebody says something bad on it, who cares?
Well, that is a great perception to have. So, if people then wanted to start off in the same lineup as you then, with writing novels and choreographing music, what advice would you give them?
Take your time and study as much as you possibly can. Study everything about the subject you're doing, whatever you're doing, whether it's learning an instrument, take your time. Learning filmmaking or how to record, take your time doing everything. And listen to other people. Listen to what other people do and listen to other people's advice. Because somebody's always got some advice out there for you. And look on YouTube, there's loads on there to learn from.
Yeah, but how did you choreography it yourself then? Have you got like musical instruments, or did you have the help of the internet? Because I think anyone can record, anyone can play a tambourine, but how do you make it sound realistic for the novel that you are writing and podcasting?
I've basically got a recording studio in my house.
Oh.
I play multiple instruments. My main instrument is guitar. I do play loads of instruments. So I actually record and play everything. My living room is the recording studio. My wife loves it.
Does the walls go back 10 feet because of the loudness of the instruments?
In all honesty, the only instrument that gets loud is the drums. The rest of it, you can keep it quiet enough to record. Don't need to go too loud. And I've built a mobile sound booth which I surround myself in to keep it soundproof.
Well, that's ideal because you don't want to think Rockfest has hit your street.
That's it.
So, in advertising, how do you advertise your projects? Do you use social media for that, or is it you that does all the work and then your partner advertises it on your behalf, or is it all on you and you alone on this project?
Yeah, it's all on me, and I don't really advertise. I've just got a Facebook page, an Instagram, and a website. And that's it. I'll just put stuff on there. If people pick up on it, I'll just let it flow.
Let it flow. Yeah. I'm just thinking, because if people are new to any of your projects, minimal advertising, people won't even know it's there. You know what I mean? You've got to really spend probably an hour. Social marketing is key. Because anyone can do a project. It's just, do you want it to be seen by public or do you not? You've got to put that into basis.
Well, at the moment, because it's still early days, I'm still testing the waters with it, really. But if over the next 6 months it does, I do get more interest in it, I shall put some time into marketing, really. I've found so far that I've released a few small, short podcasts over the last year, and they are very short, 5 to 10 minutes. And I found the biggest audience I had and the best reaction was from the US, believe it or not. They loved it. So if I can break it over there, that'd be great. It's a lot more people. But
yeah.
But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Have you got any interest in the radio itinerary? Because I think, as you know, because you can write it's like a radio theme really, but you're doing it digitalized on YouTube. I'm just thinking, if BBC said, "Oh, can you fill in this radio gap between 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Or 10 p.m. and 11 p.m.?" Would you think you could be on the radio and do that sort of thing, or do you think because you're used to doing it on your own and you get more concentration, what do you feel about that?
No, I'll definitely do it. I've done a lot of radio and TV work in the past, so I would do that. Done all sorts of things, not just paranormal, not just music. I've done other things as well, interviews for fundraisers, all sorts. So yeah,
So you're like a known face around the social marketing sort of side then?
no, not really. I'm just somebody who pops up now and again. But,
Well, not now and again. Someone who tells a fantastic story on a monthly scale.
well, I hope so. I'll try to.
Thing is, a question that would come to me as a creator myself, as you get into that progress of your YouTube and it earns quite a bit, so say you got about 700 subscribers in the next forthcoming weeks or months, would you be able to, do your podcast on a more weekly basis? Because people want more, you see. You can't say, for instance, Ben Phillips was a prankster. If he releases a prank once a month, he wasn't going to make it famous. So you know what I mean. You've got to try and pick up that trend because YouTube, believe it or not, the viewers matter.
It does, yeah, it does. But I would do it more often. It all depends. If it did pick up and I'd have to earn some money from it, really.
Before you start up a bit on your schedule.
Yeah, because it takes too much of my time.
So you're going to keep it monthly, fortnightly at the maximum, and then if it starts to get more popular, you're then going to do it on a weekly basis.
Yeah, and I'd probably try and get some help if I had to do it weekly. I think I would need it.
Yeah, definitely. The thing is, I think though, I'll give you some tips on this. I think, the internet will save at least 40% of that time. Because if you look for resources, trusted sites, obviously, because websites say, "Oh, buy this, subscribe to this package," it's all cons really. But if you look really hard into the World Wide Web, you could get some fantastic resources, or there's things called now, if you write music, called lyrics generators. There's fantastic things out there, but just be cautious because what you don't want is to be landed into a scam or a contract that is not delivering what it says it is.
That's it, yeah. Well, in all honesty, if I needed to put a team together, I know everybody. I know everybody, members of my family and friends who work in different fields. So I could put a team together, no problem. But I'd have to be, like I said, I'd have to be earning, really.
The thing is, everyone wants to earn, but depends on what you provide. You've got to put that on the basis,
That's exactly
Like I said, if you're
Yeah,
doing it on your currently scale monthly, you will probably have a long while there before you can start picking up a sort of viewing figure. That's why I said,
yeah,
even to get on the cusp of getting noticed, you would need to do at least a fortnightly thing. I do recommend weekly, just to get noticed, because say for instance you start a YouTube channel now today and you don't upload to the 20th of each month. People be thinking, "I've tuned in on the 16th, I got nothing. What is this, a dead channel that's got anything on there?" Yeah,
that's it. Exactly.
that's the thing, doing YouTube, you gotta have a balancing act. You gotta give them something, and you gotta put the time into it. It doesn't come for nothing.
That's it. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Because those
Well, that's
viewers
where.
pressing that subscribe button, you're not. So you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, the YouTube channel for myself at the moment, it's just another medium where I'm putting the podcast. Um, the podcast really it's on Spotify and iTunes and anywhere else you can listen to a podcast. So YouTube really is going to be for the ghost investigations I do with this group, more than the podcast itself. So hopefully they'll have more of an inkling, and I think they know what they're doing from previous work they've done. So we'll see what happens with that.
So, give us a bit of background then on this paranormal side then. When do you think a first investigation will start then? What details can you give us?
I can't give you any at all at the moment because
It's all in talks at the
the
moment,
person
is
who
it?
organised it is she's been away for a while, and I'm just waiting on her really. So I'm not entirely sure. I think it's going to be early summer, perhaps May,
Maytime.
around that time. Yeah,
Well, like I said, this coronavirus is back with a vengeance, so make sure you keep yourself safe and keep your team members safe, because it will be surely
exactly.
catastrophic.
Yeah, exactly.
Another
Yeah,
thing that
so
has picked up on me, because as you said, it's going to do YouTube for ghost hunting purposes. Me as a creator, here's my tips. I would use YouTube as your digital marketing for your ghost hunting work, and I would try and get the podcast onto more digital music streaming sites, as you said, Spotify, iTunes. You could probably likely get into BBC podcast. I think take your podcast to a different route because people like YouTube want something that they can watch. I don't want to, be too criticized here, but because YouTube isn't really sort of place to listen to podcasts,
yeah,
because
yeah,
it's more of a video marketing site, not really to
yeah,
distribute a podcast too. If you get sort of what I'm saying, it is if you have like in-person podcast.
yeah,
So where you have like a friends or something, and that would be great for that podcast. But because if it's a solo or on a video chat like I'm doing here, I do distribute it after transmission. But as I said, podcast would want the actual person in it, like
yeah,
like in person, if you get what I mean. Um, on a conference call or on in person, you probably want to take a different route down that.
yeah. That's what I'm thinking. Like I said, I am putting them up. I am uploading them to YouTube as I go along. But I am looking at just using YouTube only for the ghost hunting side. Um, we've got quite a few ideas what we're going to do. We're going to do. It's all going to be weekly content. But we got not only the investigations are going to be on there, but we're going to also have experiments, EVP sessions and seances, Ouija boards, all that sort of thing. And we'll be doing whole sessions of like a couple of hours and things like that. Which that'd be interesting. I know people have done it before, but we'll see what happens. But,
The
I'll
thing
try.
is, I would spend more of your free time trying to get that channel together. I know you're not going to post any content yet, but any like half hours you get, focus on that. We could try and make it as really eye watching as possible because people think, oh, you only spend 10 minutes on this. People isn't
Yeah,
really going to press that button. You see, it's quite frustrating as well when you do go into this YouTube marketing land because people will watch your videos, but they won't hit the button. That's why you've got to make
yeah,
it ever so important for them to think, oh, he done a great job, I'll smash that button.
yeah,
I would write, like, say on your channel banner, write your name on there as you would normally would, but then write something along the lines, coming May or coming soon.
yeah,
Then that in itself would initiate people to subscribe. If you're going to think, you're going to put your name on there and leave it as it is, people would come across there eventually and think, well, there's no sign of this channel, this person being here. I'm just going to skip to the next one. You've got to have every figure of audience you can really come across.
that's it. Yeah, yeah. It's like I say, I've got to discuss it with this group first, and we'll see what happens. But I think they've all done other they've all had YouTube channels, or they've got their own YouTube channels. Um, I'll just see how it goes from there, really. But from a podcast itself, I'm already on Spotify and iTunes and Stitcher and Podbean and everything else. And I found it works in the same way as YouTube. People will listen, but not everybody follows you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, so on Podbean itself, I've had these about 800 listens and only 10 people follow.
I think that's
But yeah,
frustrating, really, don't you? As a creator, I think that's quite frustrating.
it is, yeah, because you want those people to follow you to listen to more.
Hmm.
And so, some people on there have actually listened to it more than once. listen to different episodes more than once, which is quite weird because they still haven't followed them.
Yeah, well, it is frustrating. I must say that it is quite frustrating. So as you taking as your podcast, then, if you look back on what you've done, would you want to like adopt one of them or change, or if you could make things better, would you take the opportunity to make things better, or do you think it's at the highest standard throughout?
Right, the ones I've done so far were just to test the waters, and I would do them all again. um, like I said, they were just to test the water and see how it worked. I just needed to learn, really. But I would take them off and completely redo them. They're too short for a start. But
So are they still
yeah,
available at present to listen to then, or you haven't removed them as of yet?
no, I thought I'd just leave them there.
So if somebody picks up on them, they can have like a 10-minute listen.
Yeah, that's it. The new content I've got coming on is between about 20 to 40 minutes for each story. I've just uploaded a trailer actually for explaining to people what the whole format is changing for this year, and a lot of people have listened to that, quite strangely. It's just like a 2 or 3 minute trailer, just to give people a little sample of what's coming and how I've changed things.
All right.
So hopefully, the ones who have listened to me before listen to that, and they'll be waiting. But the first one, the new format, will be going up at the end of this month.
The thing is, though, right, you've got to give your listeners a little bit more frequent content. So with your YouTube channel, if you operate one, and as I said, you don't upload on a frequent basis or don't upload on a continuous scale, listeners will think, well, I've seen this now for about 3 times. Where's this new episode? You've got to give them something for them to stay there, stay and follow. Like I said, as you said, it was going to test the waters, but if you're going on a serious note, you've got to you've got to really pay attention to the marketing. Without no marketing, it's already going to be a dwindle, because social media is where teenagers connect, is where adults connect. They will stumble across you. This is what I mean. Social marketing, although it's good and bad, you can get trolls and hated comments, but the good is you can get a very good reach. And if you don't get our reach on social media, that will probably be an invisible project.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's well, the other pages I've run, I've got pages on Facebook, for instance, Ghosts of Redditch, which was my paranormal group from the 90s, still going. It's linked to my website, and it's usually just people from the town of Redditch on there. But I've got over 2,000 people on there who follow the page, and there's loads of interaction going on. A lot of those people are interested in the podcast as well.
So what do you use your website for then? What's that about? What do you use your site for?
Well, the Ghosts of Redditch website, which was, like I said, my paranormal website from the 90s. It's been going on that long. Oh. It's literally just to share stories from our hometown, and it's local people use it. I don't make any money or try to make any money out of it. It's just a bit of fun, people to share the ghost stories and talk about it. That's it, really.
So you don't have a website you own currently then?
Yes, yeah, that's the website.
Ghosts of Redditch.
Ghosts of Redditch. Yeah, ghostsofredditch.co.uk.
So this has been, active since the 90s?
The original website was. That particular one has been up for about 6 or 7 years, I think.
So this is a website you all use that?
I use the website as like a reference place, but for the interaction we use Facebook.
I've got Ghost of Reddit.weebly.com. I'm not sure if that's yours.
Yeah, that's the same one. Yeah.
Oh, so it's like a free sample website then.
Yeah.
There are.
It's just a place to.
There is loads of them.
Stories, really.
Well, it's a fab collection of them. If I must say, there's a fab collection of them. Um,
Yeah,
so if I click on one of them, then as I got is these ones here. So is it just like a short, sweet story? This ones are there.
they are. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
What I usually do is share them on Facebook, and then people discuss the stories.
um, there is, there's like a paragraph there. So I know you want to, share the stories, but if people would read that, they think, well, I'm reading a paragraph, but not an actual story in length, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
You can imagine what the story is, but people would want a longer, so they can imagine it more and get a close feel at it.
yeah. The idea of just those just short paragraphs is, like I said, I put them on Facebook, and because it's just people in our hometown, they discuss it. And people in their hometown discuss it. And you'll have people who say, "Oh, I used to live in that road," and they'll start discussing different things about things like that. They start talking about history and just that really. That's just nice and simple. Like I said, it's just a hobby thing. People enjoy it in the
Thing
town.
is, me as a creator, I would like something I could watch, you know. So I'll
Yeah,
give an example of this. So say you write your own stories, you narrate them, and you give like the narration on the story. I think it would be a cool idea, if you see like pictures moving as the narration goes. Because I
yeah,
think
definitely.
it like a photo book in a sense, but you're taking photographs and you're integrating them with it. So like it's like a video story, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. That is
Because
something I will look at doing. Something like
because all you need to do is take probably 15 photographs. If you want to do it your own self, take 15 photographs of anything that looks haunted or anything that's got some sort of connection with that story that you are writing. Or even take some
yeah,
photos off Google. Google is for everyone. So if you haven't got anywhere haunted around your area, that would be a good place where you can get your collection of images and put them on like a video book and record as the pictures are moving, if you know what I mean, like a moving picture.
yeah, yeah. It's something worth looking at. Well, I'll see how it goes for now. So I think I'd like to, if I did that, I'd like to make it more personal and actually get the real photos of the actual places I'm talking about, and actually take them myself or get somebody else to take them for me.
Hmm.
Um, I think I'd have to. I'm a bit picky and some. I don't like using other people's images. Um,
Yeah, well,
reason that,
what's Google, innit? What's Google? If they were that sort of, sort of that attention thing on copyright purposes, there will be Google images around, wouldn't it? Because people wouldn't be able to access it.
do you know that's it?
So
I don't like
is
any copyright issues and
basically the images
that
you
stuff.
see, I think is free of copyright because they wouldn't be listed if it wasn't. They'd be asking you to buy it, if anything.
Um, I'll give you a good example. A friend of mine's an artist, and they've got a website, and some of their artwork is featured on their website. And of course, Google search engines, the bots have picked it up, and they found their piece of art was being used on somebody's website,
Oh God.
and they'd slightly edited it. So my friend, who's a professional artist, actually took them to court because they refused to take it down because they said they got it off Google and it was free to use. And because there's actually copyright on the image, they ended up with about 10 grand, which the person was fined for. It was a few years ago.
Oh
So
God.
yeah, it's the same as music.
The thing is,
Like I said,
how did they get access to them? I mean, how did they find out who this person was? Because if it's only on the website, you probably won't get any contact details unless they leave them on there. It's quite
the,
great, really, that you
it was
found that out.
it was through a bot. For instance, with my music, even though my music's published online, you can find it on YouTube anywhere. But I actually make money out of that. So if anybody uses my music anywhere, the my publishers will find it through bots that they use on the internet. And it's the same with artwork. Unless you're signed up and it's professionally published, nobody will find it. But if you get somebody who is professionally published, it will be found.
So have you had any copyright issues yourself then? Because as you are, you took a whole month writing this music. If I was the same as you and you was the same as me, and I spent that long on a piece of music, I'd be probably infuriated if somebody will think, oh, it's an easy steal. I mean,
Yeah,
it's quite frustrating now.
Yeah, everything I do is copyrighted and published. Just to protect myself, really. If anybody decides to steal anything I've done.
Thing is, what I would do is, depending on the provider you're with, they are cracking down on that copyright issues, because most sites these days, I used to own a site on Simple Site. I couldn't protect my content on there because, as you know, is I could right click on my laptop or I could press and hold my phone screen. It'll say save image as. Now, however, I got a different site on a different provider. So if people say I got podcasts from last month on there, so if people wanted to save it and try and distribute it or try and crop out my voice and that sort of thing, they won't be able to download it because it's protected.
Yeah.
The only thing that they will be able to download if they wanted to, but it's watermarked anyway, is my archives, which is from travel, pranks, videos I've done last year, and something like that. I wanted to do that in an archivey type way, like on Google Drive. So I shared the folder with them. It's because this on the price plan that I've got, it's a limited storage space. So if you go over to that, you've got to up the price again, which is quite expensive on the price plan that I've got anyway. So I think that's quite a bit cheeky, really. But I'm not too bothered really if they use the archives, because the reason being is I could find them because it's copyrighted, and if people want to be that clever and try to remove it, they would get fined eventually. But you know what I mean. It's quite a little bit of a complex issue because people do their own work and they really don't want to expect having somebody steal it and pretend it's theirs. It's almost like it's plagiarism, but it's plagiarism on someone else's material. But websites itself is cracking down on that.
One of the things I find is if somebody used something of mine, I wouldn't mind as long as they acknowledge me for it. Or if they were making a lot of money out of it, I would want some out of it. If somebody weren't making any money and they were just doing it as a hobby or whatever, and they just said, I'm going to use your video music and we'll put your name on there, I'd say fine, do it. As long as you've got my permission, that's okay.
And the thing is, really, people wouldn't want to ask people's permission because it takes so much of their time. Hence why if they see it, oh, that sounds nice, I'll take it.
That's it.
And the one thing that I do find as well, that people are making their own non-copyrighted music on YouTube. But, there's so many tools out there now. The world has changed since YouTube has launched. There's tools out there called YouTube converters, which allows you to copy and paste a web address into the tools, and you can download it free and easy. There's so many ways now. I think YouTube needs to really change its act and protect more of the content there, because if they don't, it's going to be infuriating.
Yeah, in all honesty, I won't lie, I've done that myself. I've used a YouTube converter, and it's not something I would regularly do. It was one particular piece of music I wrote myself years ago on an old YouTube channel, and I couldn't find it anywhere, and I had to use it to download it.
Yeah, but it's yours anyway, so you're not exactly being cheeky about it. If it was somebody else's, then fair enough. But I think there's so many crafty ways out there, and YouTube is not changing in the way it needs to be to protect the owner's content and to protect plagiarism, because if Google can, or if images websites can be protected, like this top of the range websites now called Shutterstock. If you look at a premium image or a premium video on there, it'll cost like £12 to actually have a free watermark video. But I'm an internet pro myself. There's so many ways out there that I could take a video from, and I can claim it's mine. There's just no security.
Yeah, I've looked into a lot of it myself over the years, or bits and pieces. And the music, you see so many people writing songs or writing music and just put it on YouTube or Facebook. And somebody like me can come along and I can listen to that piece of music and write it all down and record it myself, and nobody would have a clue. And I'll just say, yeah, I've done this. Yeah. I've heard people who aren't very good and they can write really well, and they put songs up, and I could just copy them just by listening to them. And they wouldn't be able, they wouldn't have a leg to stand on, to be honest, because I've recorded it properly. And if you can't do anything until you've published and copyrighted, unless you've got serious evidence that it's yours.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult place. So when people do cover songs,
Mm.
and YouTube have really cracked down on that now. I was filmed about 7 years ago playing guitar. My wife was singing. She's a singer.
Yeah.
And it was for the John Bonham memorial statue, which was the drummer from Led Zeppelin. It was to have a statue raised for him. And we played an Eagles song, Hotel California, on an acoustic guitar. And somebody uploaded it to YouTube, and I found it. So they sent me a copy, and I uploaded it to YouTube. And within about 3 months, it was taken down straight away. Copyright issues. So they're really quick on it now.
The thing is, though, I think if you're using instrumental, that's fine. Before I do like live podcast guests, I do like 30 to 40 minutes doing like a karaoke prologue just to get the viewers watching something. But so I always use instrumentals. But it's quite a good point really to bring that up, because there are songs that I have distributed on the live streams that I do, and I haven't been taken down for that.
No.
So I think some artists, believe it or not, you get away with it. Like I'll give you an example. Drake, the new song, what's the new song? Alive Now, Cry Later now, right? If you played that as soon as it's released, then you'd have a problem. If you play with it 2 months after, no worries at all.
Yeah, like the song I used, Hotel California, even though it's from about 1975, because it's still a massive song. It's still a popular song today. They jumped on it straight away. It's like if you use a Beatles song. A friend of mine does guitar lessons online.
Yeah.
He's got a YouTube channel in America. He's a big producer. He was doing this guitar lesson on YouTube, and he used probably about 10 seconds of this song. Played his guitar. His video was about 20 minutes long, and they took it down because of this 10 seconds of a Beatles song that he played on guitar. The whole video had to come down.
Yeah, there's some sorts of, the YouTube is quite controversial. If there's a one song that you do, you don't even know what that one song will be. You just got to try it out and test it for yourself. As soon as you play that one song, that will be copyrighted. One song. All it needs is one song. However, right, if there's a 30-second piece, there's some sort of thing that says video cannot be monetized, but technically your video is still seeable. However, they do recommend to replace the song you've used through it, but that takes probably an hour to process that and to get your video back up. But in theory, if this is like an orange light on there, you can get away with it. Red, video is blocked. And you can't download it. As soon as that's blocked, you can't download that video at all. So in theory, you've got to start from scratch again.
Yeah, that's a nightmare.
It certainly is.
Yeah, and to buy music, you can buy stock music like you can with photos and video.
Yeah.
It works out really expensive, and if you're not making money at it, or much money, it makes it really difficult then. Luckily, that's why I dabble in a bit of all sorts. I do a bit of filmmaking, a bit of photography, very minimal artwork.
So your number one passion then is ghost tales. That's the one thing that you are really passionate about. So, music and photographs, photography. That's sort of your side hobby, but the one thing you're passionate about is telling people a story that goes on.
No, music is number one for me.
So it's music, ghostwriting, and then paranormal.
Yeah, definitely. The filmmaking is just a hobby. I like doing a bit of that. I'm not too great at it, very amateur. But I'll give it a go. I'll have a go.
Well, all you need is a camera, probably 3 members of your team, and you're ready to go.
That's exactly it. Yeah, exactly. And it's a bit of fun. And,
So have you had like a great viewing feedback of it then? You know, has your audience been mixed, or have your audience been, have your audience listened from start to the end, on statistical basis? Have it been all right, or do you think, do you think it could have gone better really?
for the podcast, it's been pretty good actually. I mean, the people who have responded they've all been good responses. And people have listened mainly to them all the way through. But they're not very long, so I think the longest one's 15 minutes that's been put up so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had quite a good response from that.
So would you do like any sort of entertainment then? Would you adopt to say doing pranks or something like that? Would you see yourself doing that sort of thing, or do you think you've got little interest in doing anything else apart music and ghost writing and ghost filming?
Yeah, I don't think I'd do anything else really. Yeah, I'd stick to what I know.
Yeah, for better or for worse, you see, you can't please the viewers every single time. You can't please anybody in the world. But as long as you're doing what you do best, and that's what you're doing, as long as what you're doing is full worship and full, yeah, you know what I mean. As long as you put your full time into it and you enjoy it, people like it, people don't. It's like saying people like strawberries, people like grapes. You can't please anybody in the world. But if you're passionate and doing what you do, keep doing it. I think there will be a time where you could be earning those bucks and having less copyright issues. But I think you'll do a fabulous job. If it takes you a month to write a good piece of music, that's how much time you spent in it, and that's what goes. Time, quality, and effort. That's the key thing. Structure.
It is, yeah. It is.
So what do you do in your free time then?
Sorry?
What do you do in your free time? So after you've done your Ghost Tales and all that sort of thing, is there anything that have you watched, TV, or what do you do in your free time?
Yeah, I watch a bit of TV. I watch a few films, all sorts of things, from documentaries to horror films and action films, whatever. I do martial arts and box.
Oh.
I haven't done so much recently since lockdown, so gained a few pounds.
So are you in England then? Is that your region, or England? Is that?
Yeah, I'm in Worcestershire.
All right. Well, fingers crossed. By probably April, it should be cooling down the grinder. But who knows really. Like I said, preserve the health and don't go in a hospital. What would you do? Stay in your home doing musical drums, or going into hospital without even know what time of day it is?
That's exactly it. Yeah. There's 5 of us in my house. There's myself, my wife, my 3 kids, and we pretty much stay in the house. If I need to go shopping, it's usually me who goes. It's just I'd rather everybody stayed at home, safer.
Yeah, well, online deliveries, that is a key thing in that actually.
It is, yeah. There's certain things you can't get. Yeah. And the other thing is, especially around here, I don't know what it's like everywhere else, but the waiting time is at least 2 weeks around here.
2 weeks for deliveries?
At the moment. Yeah.
I think what I find is quite annoying is people booking deliveries, even though they have to self-isolate, but they like to try and get a delivery slot without having a permissible reason. So I can say I'm getting a delivery, even though I can probably walk to my local supermarket.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, I think they're trying to be a little bit selfish, really, because there are people out there who can't even walk outside their own living room door. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you've got you know, 3 weeks to get a piece of carrot in your door for your door, you know, is actually ridiculous.
I'm lucky because I'm a 10-minute walk from my supermarket, and when I have been recently, it's been really quiet. I usually go early in the morning.
6 in the morning,
Really
is it?
quiet. So, yeah, first thing in the morning. I'm up at 5 every morning anyway. So.
You know, you're there straight away. Tesco's, here we come.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In and out.
So, you know, are you like a McDonald's fan then? Or a KFC or a Nando's or anything like that?
I don't do takeaways at all.
No takeaways?
No. My wife's a chef.
Oh. You don't want to give McDonald's a fiver for a nice Big Mac and fries and ice cream? You never know. You know that would probably go down well. And a nice strawberry milkshake.
No, my wife's a chef, so she makes the burgers are better than McDonald's. Yeah.
Well, McDonald's will be very offended by that comment.
That's okay.
Yeah, like I said, you know, McDonald's, you know, like I said, you know, you got to support your takeaways because even if you don't like them, £2 will go towards your local eatery. Because every money that you give them, you know, it will help them because everyone's on bad terms, you know. There's no pubs are open, no hospitality is allowed to continue operating. So, you know, even for your children's benefit, you know, going to a local McDonald's or a KFC, you know, even for a popcorn chicken and fries, that is a very helpful thing to that restaurant and to what you're providing for.
It is. I eat quite healthily, you see, so I like to know what's going in my food. That's why I don't eat takeaway.
But yeah, but you know, so you wouldn't even go to a restaurant then. You wouldn't actually, like I said, you wouldn't know what your food, you know, what your food is, but you can't go in the kitchen area and think, right, who's tampering with my food? You know, you gotta let it bring it out to you. So, you know, you wouldn't do restaurants for that benefit, would you?
The only time I would eat out is if I know the person who's cooking it. For instance, like I said, my wife's a chef, so the places where she's worked, I would go to because they cook everything from scratch. There's nothing bought in, no processed foods. So I would eat them. That's great, but I wouldn't go to anywhere else really. When your meal only takes 10 minutes to come onto your plate, there's something wrong.
No, but they gotta serve other people, you see. But you know, you think there's something wrong, but you know, have you ever thought, oh, you know, it seems it only took 10 minutes and it's here, or probably 15 minutes if you go on a busiest time. You know, I just don't think really that they just couldn't tamper with people's food. Like, say you order like a cheeseburger or something, you can tell it's off really about how it's presented. You know, it's like say McDonald's, but you know, they're like a worldwide distributor, like burgers and fries. So, you know, they don't have a bad reputation considering how quick a McDonald's can be delivered to you. Probably quicker than a Wetherspoons.
I think, yeah, if you go to a restaurant, say Wetherspoons, a good example. You have what I call microwave chefs, and a lot of things is just warmed up in a microwave. A friend of mine worked in there as a chef, and he said he weren't a chef, just a microwave operative. He fried a few chips. He said everything was pretty much microwave. If you get vegetables, he said even to a steak. He said that at one point when he worked there, they had steaks cooked at different levels, and you just microwave them and then just flash them in a pan just to give them the taste. Bizarre. I've never known anything like it, but yeah.
Good Lord, I don't eat a steak. I heard though, right, in fairness, if you go there, say for a lunch out, paninis, they are fantastic. You know, you can't get any paninis like them. You know, you can get Tesco's. You know, I think right, Wetherspoons is quite controversial in my experience. I've ordered a burger in there in the past, and like a Harvester. Harvester is the same as well on this. You know, an Harvester took, you know, fair enough, it took 25 minutes. That's kind of expected really because it's a top end restaurant. But then when it comes out and you've got, you know, a beef burger like that thick, and then when you open the bun, it's all brown and burnt. You know, you think, well, I waited 25 minutes for this, where I could wait 5 minutes for at, you know, probably half the price of McDonald's, and I could be eating it, you know, than the salad. So all you've got basically for 25 minutes wait is a lettuce leaf and a couple of chips. You know, and Weatherspoons, you know, it's the same, you know. All right, it's edible if you can avoid the taste. But Weatherspoons and Harvester for burgers is a total avoid.
Yeah, definitely.
I just can't believe 25 minutes for a, you know, like, Weatherspoons is like 15 minutes, or and then you got Harvester, and that's about 25 minutes wait, double what you'd wait in Weatherspoons. And what you get for 20 quid, a lettuce leaf and a couple of chips, you kind of think that's quite a rip-off. But yeah, I just understand how they can operate, really, because it's 25 minutes for a poorly burnt burger and fries. You know, I think that would have been quite disturbing, really, if you was going to go on a date and that was your food. You know what I mean? Sorry about that. I got loads of DMs messaging. So like I said then, so who inspired you to start this channel then? Because it's interesting to know who inspired you.
To start the podcast, nobody really. I suppose it's from when I was a kid. I used to listen to the radio, and obviously being interested in the paranormal. It's from, I suppose it's a collaboration of all the different skills I've picked up over the years, from music to writing, stories, and it's that's what it is really. It's just something that's evolved.
So you know, you took those childhood memories and you really acted on them as years to follow.
Yeah, sort of, I suppose. But as a kid, I always wanted to have a go at filmmaking. So I did that a couple of years ago. And then once I've done the filmmaking, it was the podcast is just a different format without the visuals, which I found more interesting. Because I can still make it visual with your own imagination. Whoever's listening will.
Like I said, you know, earlier point in the podcast, you know, photos and your voice narrator, if you can adopt to that, I could say your figures would really go up.
Yeah, I think they probably would.
Because if you listen to like Justin Bieber Mistletoe, it's a song, but you know, if it was just a song without no background or no, like say Justin Bieber, right? He's a singer and a music producer. You know, if he was singing Mistletoe when I was listening to nothing on my screen, you know, I'm thinking, am I listening to this via a radio channel or am I listening to this via YouTube? You know, it all depends what people opinions on that. But me as a personal creator myself, I'm not exactly a singer or a songwriter, but you know, I think advice like this would help you really improve at that scale.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's basically when you look back in the 80s with music, you had the invention of MTV, and all of a sudden music video was the big media, just as much as the single or the album was. So everybody had to create a music video then to get anywhere. So it works in the same sort of way with YouTube, because obviously YouTube is a video platform. So yeah, you don't want to just be looking at a blank screen or one picture, do you?
No, it's like saying you're going to watch Good Morning Britain on your TV, but you can't watch the picture.
Yeah, here's a photo of the presenters. That's it.
We're going to imagine who's sitting where and who's coming on the show.
That's it, yeah.
So, you know, have you got any questions you'd like to ask me then? I don't think I ever came to a point in that, but have you got any questions you wish to ask me?
Yeah, what's your YouTube channel actually? Because I tried to find you earlier.
The details are on questpulse.net. It had a total rebrand this year. My old branding was true, but because I thought this branding isn't really taking off, I thought let's have a shake up in January, so I did. But believe it or not, after I did this shake-up, there's always two people. There's always two people behind thinking, "Oh, well, I can't find it." But then, if you type into any of the names that is listed on the site, or any of the archives, they've got the channel names on them as well. All my operations is always listed on a website, because I think websites are key. Websites are key to get out there because people won't have social media. So I'm thinking I'm adapting to that. In a way, I'm giving them information that's accessible to them without having to touch Facebook, Instagram, because believe it or not, I'm with the parents on this because social media is kind of a bad perception. It can fire up arguments, bullying, anything. So I'm with the parents if they can't allow their children on social media. Hence why that on my videos, say for instance, I've released a video now Thursday, just gone. I've at the end of the video, I've always put on my website because YouTube is accessible for children. So I'm thinking, adapt to the change, advertise your site on there, and viewing figures could change that way.
That's it, yeah.
On the channels that I do in question, however, so next month, however, I'm starting to do paranormal videos myself. It's a major shake-up. I've never done this before, but I think because of the trend, every year is a growing trend, and because it's on a trend, it's very important to nip onto that trend, because the minute you lose that trend, it could get ever harder to rank yourself up on the chain. I'll give you an example. Jared from Ghost Hunters XX UK, or Jared, something along those lines. I can't remember the channel name off by heart, but there's something with that, like Ghost Hunters XX UK. That could be the one. He started a paranormal channel last year in March before the original lockdown started, and he's already at 1,035K subscribers, and not only that, he's also got 3K followers. So it's impressive, because if you start to hit on it at an earlier stage, results are impressive. So I'm going to adapt to that next month and see what it would bring. But this month, however, I'm just going to do prank rewind. So over the 5 years of pranks I've done, I'm just going to pick out the best 5 and put them back on YouTube once again. But if you want to have an earlier watch, it's all in the archives. But yeah, because I think pranks and paranormal and anything that you can do, or technical videos, or if you help people out in our technical land, they are popular, but you just gotta be distinctive. You gotta make out that your content is better than theirs, and it's a 24-hour challenge, because unless you've got the comments off the viewers, you're the prime thinker. And to be honest, that's where the headache comes in. You know what I mean? Because if people are successful and you're still slacking, is it me, or is it what I do, or how I film it? You've got to put all that into perceptions, and it's a ever-growing battle.
What will you be doing for your paranormal channel?
Well, I don't want to be in direct competition. I've had this discussion with other viewers a couple of days ago. The reason, people think, oh, well, he started paranormal last year. Why am I then following suit? It's not all about the competition. It's not all about getting the best. It's what you can do differently.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm adapting to what he does, but I'm adapting mine in different routes. So he's got like the kits to go and investigate a ghost hunter or a ghost. My on the other hand, I could be doing like urbex exploring, where I go to a place, give history, not sort of directly paranormal, but it's on the cups, if you get what I mean, because I'm going to a haunted place and doing something with that place. It might not be totally on point, but you're always going to get criticism. You're always going to get, well, why have you done that? Why have you done this? There's going to be criticism in anything you do, but I think if you pay attention to how you present the videos, how you get the viewers from where you start the video to where you end it, that's the crucial stage.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. There's I do watch a lot of the paranormal videos on YouTube, and there are a lot of people doing different things, and there's some really good content out there at the moment.
Yeah.
And again, with the urban explorers, that's great as well. I watch a lot of those. Some great abandoned places.
I've got some. I had some lined up earlier this week, but because of the weather, um, I couldn't do the full video. But the only problem is with that is as well because of the current situations with schools around here. You know, you don't want to get a wrong name for yourself. We're going for a video camera and at the school hill. But you know what I mean. But like I said, you know, like I said, people who watches you and watches every move while you're in the public eye, they think you're doing something wrong all the time. I'm thinking, watch it back on YouTube and then tell me. You know, think that then if I'm then say if I'm doing something wrong. You know, because there's always
Yeah,
going to be controversy. Like, you know, if I went with a webcam, say down Newport, you know, because of the reputation there, with filming and whatnot, you know, I could go down there with a camera in my street. People are going to say, "Oh, why are you filming me? Why?" It's just you're just getting yourself in that situation on a basis. You know, that's why I say, you know, before I start to film, I always watch surroundings. Hence why I don't film by myself. Because if I did that, you know, as soon as I turn my back, you could have your camera taken. So, you know,
yeah, that's
you
what I found
you
as well.
always gotta have at least two people every single time you go. You know, obviously, you know, my team isn't as professional, but then, you know, I just think to everyone's opinions is why do you criticize for not being professional? You know, it's like Ben Phillips. You know, he's a prankster, but is he professional all the time? You know, it's viewers' expectations that isn't on point with what you do. I think they look too behind the scene, but not knowing what we do on the real line.
Yeah, and when you get to when things start, when people do go professional with their video editing, etc., um, things become overproduced. I think,
Mm.
and you're losing, especially for something like YouTube. Things become overproduced, and you're losing the real feel of what you're actually doing. Um, it's different if you're watching something on TV,
Yeah.
Ghost Hunter, something like that. That'd be a totally different thing. You expect the production on there. You expect a lot of bike stuff as well. But as a YouTube channel, I think it's better to be less produced.
Hmm.
Keep things simple.
Yes, you gotta be, you know, whatever I do or whatever I film, it's always going to be the original thing. I'm not going to spice things up and think, you know, just to get the viewers in more, I'm just going to spice up a scene. I think if I did that, then people think, well, it's not the real thing. That's what I'm doing. So you know, the thing is, I'm doing from February is Urbex in theme, but I'm trying to, you know, look at it, see if I can adapt to paranormal, see if I can get onto the cuffs of that. But like I said, you know, I watched, you know, Ghostlands XX UK last year. Still watch their content now. You know, as long as you're not really directly competing against them, there isn't any war. There isn't any war anyway, because you know, if you want to do that, then you know, I can do it basically. But just to avoid
Yeah,
any sort of bad notion, it's always important just to take your content a little bit in a different direction, so then people can experience a different side of it, if you know what I mean.
that's it.
So
Yeah,
you know, people can do full on paranormal, but then me myself, if people want to do a bit of, you know, bit of mix, you know, they've got that alternatives. But um,
that's
I
it.
think, you know, if I did directly paranormal, not only would it be time consuming, is I got to research more and, you know, be better prepared and that, which I don't mind doing, but you know, it's not really my scene of that. But you know, um, yeah, you know, February is when they will start to appear, so I'm hoping it would get some viewers in and some subscribers at least. You know, it'd be nice to see me finally improving little by little. But I think the
Yeah.
people would love it. You know, if they like paranormal and urbex, I don't think they'd be too picky myself. But who knows, really?
You'll have to let me know, send me a message when you got something up, and
I will, of course, I will. You know, like I said, you know, the website is there 24/7. It never really goes down. You know, it's up there 24/7, 7 days a week. But yeah, you know, like I said, you know, like older content. So say, for example, I've released last year's podcast because of an old rebrand. It didn't really sink into my theme of the new rebrand. So I put them on the archives. So you know, if you want to listen to them, you can do. It's up there ready for listen. But like I said, you know, if you're in, if you, I do like there's loads of paranormal interviews I got coming this evening as well. So if you happen to have an evening free or something, just tune into the channel and interact. Because there's loads of paranormal coming tonight and this weekend as well. So I'm hoping it's gonna taste your spread.
Yeah, a bit busy then.
Yeah, that's what, you know, I do have to, like, you know, because I think it's getting more popular because, you know, of the guest I interview. That's why I do an afternoon podcast, firstly, and then I do then the evenings category. You know, last year it's always been on a Sunday where I've done podcasts, but because they are getting ever more popular, I'm now doing Saturday and Sunday, except for Monday just gone. I did a podcast with somebody because it was the first day I'm back from my Christmas season break. Because you know, with me, I really stopped doing production because if I did that, viewing figures would go down. But this year I'm spicing up with that as well. So I'm going to take a break now. February, half term. It's like on a school rota. Not directly in sync with the rota, spiced up and moved around a bit, but it's on point, if you know what I mean. You know, it's important to take breaks and important to think, review your content on a seasonal basis, so January to Feb, and then review the next lot and the next lot and the next lot, because constant review is the key to success. And if you don't really pay attention to that, it's not going to look good.
I know that well enough being a guitar teacher. Yeah, so yeah.
So have you got any further questions, you know, which you ask me, you know, any questions that suits you? Anything at all, really? Can't think of anything. Can't think of when I started or anything like that.
When did you start, actually?
2017 is the year I actually started. Haven't improved over 4 years. I don't know what I've done wrong, mate.
Well, I've been doing music since I started playing guitar in 1989 and started teaching and going into writing my own music from when I was 16. I'm 45 now, so and I'm still not rich and famous.
Ian, it comes in different traits and categories. Being Justin Bieber, I tell you that for something.
I wouldn't want to be in that.
You want to be on X Factor, playing the drums and the guitars and things like that.
I'm a rock musician.
Rock musician.
Composes classical music.
Yeah, I just think though, I think it could be. I think you're X Factor material because if you can produce excellent music and give perfect narration, I think that's the place for you.
No. I'll stay away from there.
Because you don't involve too many people watching.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's just not my sort of thing.
Or The Voice.
I think
The Voice is a good one.
In all honesty, I think the reality TV programs like X Factor and Britain's Got Talent and all that, I think they've actually destroyed a lot of the music industry. They've put basically a load of rubbish in front of the screens, on the screens and into the charts. And real musicians have disappeared. My opinion as a musician. When I have people tell me about people like Kanye West and they say, so talented. I'm like, where? You know, he wouldn't compare to somebody like Prince. Prince was talented. Or somebody like Frank Zappa. Now, a lot of people won't know who Frank Zappa is. He was an amazing composer from the 60s, played in rock bands. Now, they were real talent. You know, they would write music out without listening to it. They'd actually just write the notes before. No, that's talent. I think in modern music today, there's creation in production, which there's some really talented producers out there. People like Jay-Z, he's a talented producer. But in general, with the reality TV stuff, Britain's Got Talent and all that, it's like factories. You know, they churn people out. And as soon as they're not making any money and the next one comes out, you know, it's like the factory process. The Beatles were like that in reality. They were like a factory process. Even though they wrote their own songs and they were talented. But commercially, that's how they were commercialised in a majorly big way. The first big boy band.
Yeah.
The Sandman.
Yeah, back when the Beatles and Simon and Garfunkel, YouTube never was around. Facebook wasn't around then either.
Exactly.
Or Twitter.
Exactly. Yeah,
Or Colour
exactly.
TV.
Yeah, and it was all complete just from hard work and touring.
You know, it's harder really to get on the TV. I've noticed it's harder even getting famous on YouTube, but get on TV is double the battle.
Oh,
You know, you've got to. I think to start off to kickstart any sort of roles, I think you've got to apply to be on a TV show. Like I know, Ant and Dec Saturday Night Takeaway, for an instance. You know, if you do a good job on there, you might be able to get featured again. But I think it's totally harder to go on a TV and promote yourself than it is on social media, because I think of it like this: 50% of the old elder generation in total now, 50%, they won't have social media. They've been brought up without it, so they wouldn't want to start being on social media. They wouldn't even know what Facebook is, but they've got TV. That's how I think the young presenters, would really get a viewing goal for appearing on news, talent shows, or anything that goes with their niche of content. But it's increasingly hard unless I, audition for a show, say Ant and Dec Saturday Night Takeaway for once, which is comedy based. There's just no luck to get in that industry.
It's really difficult. Everything to do with TV. I've known people who have applied for X Factor and The Voice and things like that, and you have your audition, which doesn't go on. It's not aired. Even if your face don't fit what they're doing, whether you're good or not, they won't have you. It's really hard to get on there. You've either got to be really rubbish, and and they'll have you just to have a laugh, or you've got to be so amazingly talented, but you've got to have a face that fits what they're looking for at that particular time. So it's really difficult. Even with where I've done music for TV, I haven't done music for TV. I've done music for film. I worked on a paranormal film a few years ago, a documentary by Jane Harris from Help My House is Haunted. And that's on Amazon. You can upload your stuff to Amazon easily. But actually, doing a few things like that since it's really hard just to try and get into TV because they've got people already, and they've got so many people lined up already. Your friends of friends. That's how it all works. Everybody knows each other. So for somebody like you and me who's not known by anybody around the TV areas, they'll just tell us where to go. Basically, you don't get a chance.
Unless we're Bing Crosby or Michael Jackson lookalike or Michael Jackson's brother or anything like that. I don't think we'll have any luck in the TV industry.
No, not anyway.
I just don't understand though. Like say Jeremy Kyle. Let's take that for an instance. I used to be on TV daily, every single weekday. If you like phone them up, they said there's a taxi waiting and you're on TV that way. You sign a contract, you got to do what they say, make the show look probably as violent as you can get, really, on morning TV. But then I just can't imagine this now, right? Somebody phoning Jeremy Kyle show and saying, everyone subscribe to YouTube, this, just to get yourself known. I think if somebody wanted to say that through their microphone, I think if I had to get beeped out, it won't even get heard.
Exactly. Yeah.
I just thought about that. Somebody like a teenager went on there and thought, free publicity, let's go. And then when they said subscribe and it's not even coming on live TV, I think they're gonna look like they're gonna look like a right plonker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would happen. That exactly would happen.
I'm on the Jeremy Kyle, but my face is known, but nobody knows where to contact me on.
Yeah. But even people, I worked on a music event a few years ago. It was just an opening of a town centre or something like that. I can't remember what it was. And I was asked to play guitar. And the main act was somebody who'd been on X Factor. and I didn't have a clue they were. It turned out to be a boy band, which was really weird because I'm just playing guitar. And also, there's a boy band on after me. Nice bunch of lads. We get a low chord. They never made it anyway. But every now and again, you see their name pop up, and they've actually managed to get work out of that. They must have gone quite far within X Factor or Britain's Got Talent. It was one of them.
Yeah.
But I do see their names pop up now and again at different venues. So they've obviously just carried on with the live work, which fair play if they were making money out of it. But I do see a lot of people as well. I've got a friend who's been on X Factor about 3 or 4 times, and she's probably a better singer than any of them that I've ever seen on there. She's absolutely amazing. But she can't get anywhere. She can't get any work. She just does studio work now for people. But she don't get any live work, which is a real shame. Well, nobody gets any live work at the moment.
It's just, and it's just hard, like Piers Morgan, for instance. He's like, he's a billionaire. Fair play with his attitude, and that's a replacement to Jeremy Kyle. You know what I mean? But it's like he started the same way as we did. But the only problem with that is, I think back in the 80s, I think you could put your name forward and you're on TV like that. Now you got to go through all this internet surveys, all this internet applications. I guarantee you, 1 in 10, unless my name was, I don't know, Philip Schofield, I don't think they would give you an application any sort of read.
No, it's difficult. It's even difficult to get onto a quiz show these days.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I Want to Be a Millionaire or The Cube. I mean, you got like 1 in 50 chance. It's like 1 in 50 chance to win a competition that they have on this morning. Every morning I put my name forward to spin to win. I've never had a call.
No.
And they think, oh, this one picked up. I think those producers are carefully monitoring those names, monitoring where people's addresses, and they think, oh, this isn't a good address to read out. We'll pop on that one. I think probably my invite to that quiz show, I think they was in their hand. They thought, nah, we won't give him to this person. We'll give it to the 50th down the line. I think it's quite annoying because I think one time my name was in their hand and they was refusing to do it. That's how I think. I think logistically, and I entered a good time. What I do is I did like a little gamble. So I put an invite forward probably 4 o'clock the same afternoon, and I thought I'll do another one then the morning after. Didn't get my name called.
Yeah.
So how are these people, getting involved in the competition and probably getting their name called? Idiotic, really. Yeah, it's like a clue, a secret clue that we will know.
Yeah, I bet it is. You'll probably find you will find most of the people who appear on TV or a quiz show or anything like that. Most people are very middle class. They're on TV, or they wouldn't have a working class person on TV very often. You do find that very often. Probably because we swear too much. I don't know.
I just don't know because, like I said, spin to win or like an advert on a TV. It says dial this and you can win a Lamborghini and £30,000 tax-free cash. I don't. I'm just skeptical of the whole thing when they advertise competitions like that. Because I just don't know. It's like say, like in a teddy bear machine, like when you go into an entertainment complex, it's got these machines where you've got these little grabbers. You put 50p in at a time, and it comes down and it goes, oop, and it goes back up again. It's like the same with your invite. You give them the producers 50p of your telephone bill, and it goes, oh, thank you for entering, and you don't get a call back ever since.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just a gamble. I think. The thing is, it's like, I don't know if you heard about this. It's a channel used to exist called ITV Play, where it used to have all game shows, interactive shows, and all that. And I think because they wasn't giving viewers legitimate, legitimate invites to the competitions they were hosting, I think they had to act the channel because Ofcom probably reviewed the channel 50,000 times and it was in breach of their broadcasting. But how come it's not in Breach where you've got there's like referring to an advert to like a teddy bear. Yeah, you can't if you can't get a teddy bear at the machine, you can't even get the prize. It's just ludicrous, really. I think they need to review their competitions and get some sort of guidelines in place because if people were to phone up and complain about it, they would have to act to protect their license.
Well, that's it. I mean, I'm not sure how a lot of it works when it comes to gambling because the laws on gambling are so intense.
Mm.
I know I used to run a pub at one time, and you get different licenses for different amounts of money you can win just from the bandits in the pub. So I'm not sure how it all works on TV. But the rise in the licenses, the cost of them was unbelievable. So I'm sure that a lot of these programs on the TV, they must have some sort of gambling license. I'm not sure whether it's classed as gambling.
The thing is, it's like Challenge, for example. That's more themed on quiz shows. There they are repeats.
Oh, right, yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, if people were to like wanting to participate and they said, you know, they haven't removed all their call this number, they could be charged and without even getting through to anyone. It's like a program that used to appear called Bullseye. You know, you barely see that on TV anymore because you know, I think quiz shows is a bit nip and whiff because like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with Jeremy Clarkson, he used to be with another person, can't remember his name now.
Chris Talon.
That's it. Yeah. You know, there's probably been thousands of guests on that show. How were they picked, and how were they even on the show? If I could, you know, if I dialed to be Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with Jeremy Clarkson, you know, I could be the thousands down the line. I just don't know how they review and get them on the show. Like it's like The Chase or Tipping Point or any game shows like All in the Wall with Anthony DeBeck. Yes, they were celebrities, but I think if they had a show where members of the public could come in and come on to, I think that show would have been skyrocket. I think with broadcasters, there's a thing called ratings, and as they meet their specific rate, they cancel them or axe them.
Yeah.
Put yourself into Love Island. 2 actresses died off the show. Yes, it was 6 months apart. Jeremy Kyle, 1 death, 1 cancellation. Not fair. That wasn't a fair decision. I think they would have axed the show years ago, but because of this reason, I got a reason now to cancel your show.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, the bloke he didn't have just the one show, did he? He ended up doing another one as well.
The Carl Files as well, yeah.
Yeah. And then he had the other show, the other thing where it was like
Emergency Room.
Jeremy Kyle Extra or something like that. Yeah, there was something going on, I remember, at one time.
The thing is, the rumours, there isn't anything on the news suggests Jeremy Kyle's return to TV. Makes me think if he's banned from TV.
Yeah, I was wondering that myself.
He said, oh, you know, he's going to appear this year. Didn't appear. Makes you really wonder, you know, has he lost his job in live TV, or has the viewers got what they wanted for 14 years and for him to work in a Tesco supermarket?
That's it.
You know what I mean? But Jeremy Kyle, you know, as much as I like to say, Jeremy Kyle was the reason to wake up in the mornings. You know.
Do you know, I didn't like the show, but I liked him I liked the way he came across. He was really good at what he did. Weren't my sort of thing to watch TV. But he was very good, talented man. He knew how to put the words across to people in the right way, and he weren't scared of anyone. He just said it right. Clever.
You know, why would anyone be scared when you got 50 bouncers in the studio? You know, as soon as you do one move, it's not going to do any good, is it really?
Yeah. But I know a few people who have done some stuff on the TV. Somebody who went on Jeremy Kyle, actually. No idea what they went on for years ago. And they said it was great. They said the experience they had. They were put up in a hotel where the food was paid for. They had a drink on the night. They said it was great. They were pampered and really looked after. And they said in backstage, Jeremy Kyle spoke to him, and they said he was a really nice guy. So yeah.
Strange, though. It's very strange because, Jeremy Kyle, when it first started, I haven't watched it. I haven't watched it in 2005. I watched it probably probably 8 years ago now. 8 years ago, I started to binge watch the show. Um, and yeah, Jeremy Kyle's attitude was a bit aggressive in some people's ways, but I think as the years progressed with the show, he wanted to get more intense, more anger, more confrontation. It wasn't really based on that topic, but because of how he did it, and the ratings were ever so higher, ITV had no reason really to act it. And if they did, they would have been under fire in the press, if anything else. But I think they waited, and if it wasn't for that death, Jeremy Kyle probably would still be here today.
Yeah, probably.
Because they would have no reason to act it. They would have no reason to cancel it. If it was it's a top program for morning TV. When it was axed that day, I was looking at this TV schedule and I was like, Dickinson's Real Deal. I'm like, no, where's my Jeremy Kyle? And then I looked later on that day and it says, Jeremy Kyle's been cancelled. What a way to end 2019. And then 2020, you got coronavirus. It's like a year timeline. Your favourite show got cancelled. A year was normal. 2020, down in the drain. 2021, all looking at a bleak start. It's just pointless, really. It's like it's been cursed. If Jeremy Kyle's on TV now, it would be worth watching.
Yeah. Well, he wouldn't be able to get any guests on there. That's the problem, isn't it? You'd have to do it by Zoom or something like that. Conference call.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine now of Jeremy Kyle showing at a TV and for them to cancel the call. It's like, it's like you don't get in a hotel this year. You get to stay in your own bedroom.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, hilarious.
Yeah. I think they would do show repeats if he was back on TV. I think it's a shock really because it doesn't help. It doesn't help when we've got untrue guests giving them total misinformation about their appearance. People think, oh, Jeremy Kyle did this, Jeremy Kyle did that. There's one guest on there that says I was rude and abrupt. They just add to the fire. They don't make it better. They add fuel to the fire. Because of the reports, they want to get on TV that way. They think, oh, he's the sorrow one. You only get that. You get that one person. I think it's because of all these guests and the rumours at surface after transmission. I think that's what ITV give them, the chance to act the show. I think if they reviewed it really and get, like Jeremy Kyle on MPs, on a live stream, he refused their invite. If he did, he probably would have a good reputation. Because, in fairness, I do respect Jeremy Kyle's decision for not appearing for them because it's not his fault, is it? Because he's doing his job, the guest doing theirs. You know how Jeremy is like if you watch an episode.
Yeah.
And this guest hardly knew what it would have been like. In the years probably 2013 to how the show got cancelled. Yes, it's got more intense. Viewers will like intense scenes. They like it how security gets involved in their war. And I think that guest knew full well what he's applying for. I just understand. It's ridiculous. It's like, Jeremy Kyle and the show. Would you apply on it? You would know what Jeremy Kyle was like. It's just pretty idiotic. Only apply for a show who you really know was like, Unless, if you're on the show and you're contracted and you got to say this in this form, you got to do that in that form, then you're stuck. But, yeah, I just think he knew full well what he was applying for. I understand, if I look back on it now on ITV's decision, I think that easily could have been reversed.
Easily.
It's not the host's fault.
I wasn't a regular viewer of Jeremy Kyle. I've watched a few episodes over the years. If somebody else is watching it in the house, you see it anyway. But I would have known exactly what to expect if I was, I wouldn't have went up there. But I would have known exactly what to expect.
Well, all you got to do is ring up the phone and then you go to your taxi box. So he's in that. Go in the taxi or in the studio.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
It'd have been a bit of a laugh to me.
A laugh, your face would have definitely suited the role.
I don't
Um,
make everybody laugh.
but yeah, it's like Judge Rinder, for example, like reality television, you know. It's, like I said at the start of this, it's increasingly hard to get on TV. It's increasingly hard to get on the news. It's like, I'll give you an example, this year or last year. This man was filmed without his trousers on as an act of defiance because trousers were not essential. You know, he'd go on the news just for showing his underpants. You know, we can't get on television and we're normal. Yeah, it's a controversial when it comes to TV appearances, but you know, as a creator myself, you know, if I can't go on TV and you're a musician for 35 plus years, you're not, you know, it's just never going to happen really, unless you put yourself forward for a show you know inside out. That's it.
Yeah.
You're not really on there.
It's not happening.
But yeah, like I said, you know, TV is going down sharply. Like I'll say this briefly, TV is going down sharply. ITV is getting old shows back, and it's not the same. Like Trisha, for example, I never really liked the show. I never really liked how it is. Jeremy Kyle, you know, you've got something to watch. You got is you know, it's dated. It's a dated show. Trisha from the 1998, and that show's coming back to ITV. I'm skeptical if that will ever become popular again. They want a bit more, you know, controversial. They want a bit more, you know, modern TV, you know, arguments, that sort of thing. And, you know, Trisha going on a microphone like this and speaking to them like if it's a poem, you know what I mean? I just don't think it'd be popular. You know what I mean? They want something to see. Like, I'll say this, you know, Jeremy Kyle's the sort of show I could have with my chocolate biscuits and cappuccino, problem. When it comes to Trisha, it's like watching Jeremy Vine.
Yeah, boring. I remember Trisha when it was on before, and well, my sort of thing. The only one similar show was the Jeremy Springer show.
Yeah,
Ago, the American one.
that's how it was adapted to Jeremy Kyle, I believe, in the UK.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and then he came over here and tried it over here, and it didn't quite work. And that's when Jeremy Kyle took over and he made it work.
Oh, he did, all right.
Yeah, I think it was Jeremy Springer didn't have the relationship with the British people. He being an American, attitudes are different, aren't they? In different countries. Even though we're all people, and I like to think we all get on, wherever you are. But I think the TV presenter in Jeremy Springer was completely different. He wasn't.
I don't know. That was a little intense. That's too intense TV, I think. You know, people fighting, and you know, I think that was rather intense for USA television.
I did wonder how much of that. I did wonder how much of it was staged. To be honest, some of it seemed like it was. But I don't know.
But like I said, you know, morning TV since Jeremy Kyle's ended, it's not the same. It won't be the same. You know, if people watch Jeremy Kyle 14 years straight, you know, they wouldn't get used to anything different. 14 years is a long time to get your TV fix, and not being funny. You know, fair enough, he was on the air for a year. You know, all right, yeah, you know, that's fine. 14 years is a hell of a lot.
It is.
The one that bit the jaw is when people only have a controversial thing about it is when the show was completely given the rubbish tank. If it was still on it, you wouldn't even get a report on it. You wouldn't even get a negative guest report. It's only after the show's been given the boot, then you say, "Oh, this guest can have a juicy newspaper wind up now. Let's give them this news reporter something flabbergasted to advertise." You know, I just don't understand why they do it. You know, it's just to get them on the newspaper, but in reality, it could be false completely.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know, that's why Jeremy Kyle didn't appear for the MPs, and to be honest, I couldn't blame him for that. You know, if he 100% knew that he wasn't responsible for the death, then good on him for not appearing. But if he is, then you know, you gotta take it like a white tooth pack, innit, you really? If you're guilty, you can always have that guilt with you. If you're not, you go out there and prove it. But with some people,
That's it.
they're not guilty, but they don't feel like they should have to be, treated like one. It's like being a shoplifter, unless you've got the proof, don't intimidate me.
So Eminem, the stuff Eminem used to do, he'd make it really controversial just for the media attention. Brilliant, works brilliantly. It does make me wonder if that's what a lot of these programs do as well, the same sort of thing. Get the media attention, get the ratings up. But then controversialness in music brings out, make it sell songs. The latest one, actually, I shan't say what it is, but I think it hit number 5, all about Boris Johnson recently. I followed the guy for years.
There are loads, and I mean loads of songs about prime ministers and the cabinet ministers all on YouTube. I watched a couple weeks ago, and how it is produced, and how when I said about photos and all that, how they adopted his face to go with the video. It's fabulous how they do it. It's fabulous how they get in sync as well with his voice. I find music creating, production, fabulous, especially when Boris Johnson should have the attention because of how his approach was to this coronavirus pandemic in the first place, because he didn't even lock the airports down, which I find total ludicrous, because people are coming into this country not getting tested and bringing the virus with them as if it's a hot chocolate in a subway. And he still haven't locked it down now. It's just a fail in the government.
Seriously.
Like Dominic Cummings for one. I left home to test my eyesight, but you can drive a car, and the car's still roadworthy. What excuse is that? I could drive to what's the place? I could drive to Cardiff and think I'm gonna test my wheels.
Yeah. Just want to see if my brakes work.
I just want to see if my brakes work in case I have to brake hard. Yeah, it is quite ridiculous, really. And Dominic Cummings is the one who brought this lockdown in, and he betrayed the rules 7 days after.
Yeah.
And he only lost his job last year.
Yeah. Well,
it's just like a time lapse. Nothing's in sync with the Prime Minister. It's only in sync if you do it 7 steps backwards.
It's like we all know about it. We know about things before he does.
I know. So, like Labour, for example. Labour is the biggest one that controverts Boris Johnson, and I think it's fair play for him. Yes, his opinions is mixed in some aspects, but he says what's on point. He says, well, why haven't you locked the airports down? Why haven't you tested more people? Why haven't you provided PPE? Why haven't you done this and that? And then you've got Piers Morgan then, giving them the full runt on morning TV, and they just don't have the answers. I think they don't want to answer because their jobs would be at risk if they did. But then what trust would you have in the public eye? You've got the role, now give us what the true information tells us. But you never hear it from the British Prime Minister's mouth. The only time you hear it is if you read it online, leaked articles and leaked press conferences. That tells you. But I think Boris Johnson just needs to be very open. You're the Prime Minister, you wanted to be Prime Minister. Now do what your job role states and give us what's truth about the matter.
Yeah.
You're behind it.
I was watching him the other day on telly, actually, when he did his speech. And I counted, somebody asked him a question. And I counted how many times he went, and I think it was over 2 minutes, 3 minutes. He said 30 times.
I know. Like the Andrew Marr show about schools. It's like, it's like he's trying to slap some toast before he could try to get a sentence out.
Yeah. We all do it, but yeah.
Yeah, but he's the Prime Minister. Do you think it's quite professional to go, I mean, I'll probably switch off if I had to listen to that. I'm not being funny. I'll listen to when it's out in the newspaper.
Well, I'll have to try it on my podcast.
Or whatever you say to the podcast, say, I'm slapping some toast. And then the ghost came in.
Yeah. But I used to work in schools teaching music and guitar,
Hmm.
and I'd have to stand up in front of a whole classroom or in front of an assembly of kids, and I used to have to speak to them. Speaking to kids is harder than speaking to adults. That's what I found. You've got to capture their attention or shout. I'm doing it. And the first time I'd done it, the first time I had to stand up in front of these kids, I was talking like Boris Johnson. I was like that, and I was self-aware of it. When I finished, one of the other teachers came up to me and they said, "You've never done that before, have you?" And I was like, "No." You need to practice and concentrate.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, this lockdown's gone to anybody. It's hard to even concentrate. Yeah, it's like when your lifestyle got to adapt to ever-growing rules. It's like, can your brain take any longer of it? Like, I imagine this: you're in a cell, right? But you're in your house. You've got all technology around you. You've got all TVs around you. Yes, you're not by yourself. You've got family. But I think it's like a prison cell, but
Yeah.
you've got the convenience of privacy and the internet.
Yeah.
But apart from that, what is it really compared to? Yes, I can stand outside my back door and my back garden, but I could do that if I want to exercise in a prison camp. The only problem is that I'm scheduled to their timetable, not I can do it myself. But imagine it though, you're in a prison cell, but you're in the comfort of your own home. It's not really a
Yeah.
difference. It's a difference for having, do what you want on the internet, that's fine. But when you look at it statistically, if you haven't got no internet around you and you're by yourself, what are you missing really?
That's exactly. Yeah.
What are you missing? You can go for a jog, you can do human habitation. But I think, you're just not missing much if you're by yourself.
And one of the bonuses for me about lockdown is going shopping because I hate crowds. So at the moment, I'll go shopping. There's only a few people in the store, which is great.
Have you ever been stopped by any marshals then in any shopping? Because I seen a YouTube video a week ago and it says these police officers were intimidating a man about not wearing a face mask, and then the force behind it said, "Oh, I condemned the actions." But if you see the YouTube video, I don't think he said to these police officers, "Hey, come here, I'll give you 20 quid. Can you stage this for the video I'm filming?" I don't think that happened myself. But you know what I mean. I think if you've seen the video, there's like this one in Hereford this year, just gone December. It was by these one council operator and two police officers, and I'm thinking, um, looking at it, I think it is real life. It is not something you could say backstage and go, "I gave this officer £30 for this video to be up." I, I
No.
I just don't think they would even take bribes to be in a production like that. So I think
I
that
haven't
is
seen
real.
anybody out to stop me. So,
That's-
I haven't heard of anything locally.
if you go there at the right time, at the right place, and you get two marshals saying, "I forgot my face mask," you'd be having a 30-minute confrontation with saying, "Well, why are you intimidating me?"
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, I think the police officers, are trying to do their job, but want to do something with it. They think it's a free pass to stop anyone in the supermarket because it saves them then go into a house and be wanted in some other places. You know what I mean? I think they take the advantage of staying in the supermarket all day because it's better than what their other jobs are.
That's it.
Anyone can stand in the sweet aisle all day. It's better than being in a police car driving to say, "This man has done this," and all the rest of it. You know what I mean?
I do, yeah. I think that's another area where a lot of money and time has been wasted with the police during the lockdowns. I know my son he just went for a walk one day and he was stopped by the police. They wanted to know where he was, where he was going, what he was doing outside. He said, "I'm just going for a walk, a bit of exercise."
Hmm.
Who are you going to meet? He's like, nobody. Just go for a walk around the houses. Yeah. Didn't even leave the. He didn't even. He weren't even 200 meters away from the house. And it happened over about a week. He got stopped every day. Well, they're just wasting his time, and they're out doing something different.
Exactly.
You're allowed to go outside the next doors.
Yeah.
He weren't mixing with people. He was just completely on his own, just walking. He even had a face mask on, which was I don't know why he done that while he was walking. I wouldn't have myself.
I think it's quite odd. I think the police are out. I not really want to arrest anybody, but I think, just because he's not following the rules, all will do it. But other than that, I think if it's like saying, you haven't got your shoes on, but there's no legislation really to put your shoes on and come back and walk to your shop, is it?
That's it.
You could walk without your top on. You could walk, in your underwear. You know what I mean? There's only a legislation about wearing a mask, but then if you just took your sock off and your shoe off and put your sock over your mouth, I think there we go. I'm not, you know. But,
there were a lot of people going to Hereford from other areas, weren't there? Not so long ago, and we had the same just down the road from me, where I am. Where Redditch is on the border of Worcestershire. The bottom half of Redditch is on the border of Warwickshire, where you've got the village of Studley.
Yeah.
And where they were in tier 3 and we were in tier 2 at the time, people were going to the pub from Studley, walking distance. It was only about 200 metres. It was on the same road. But because the boundary was halfway up the road, they were all coming over to Redditch. But yeah, I found that humorous. I didn't go to the pub myself. Just heard about it.
Well, you got to support your pubs, you see. That's one thing you got to do when they're open. You got to support them.
Definitely.
So there's one thing I'll ask you then. Is it just me then who invited you on a podcast to date, or if you had other requests?
Yes, just yourself.
Oh. Yeah. If people wanted to ask for your podcast, are you flexible with that, or are you going to see as a legitimate user?
I'm just going to stay to being flexible at the moment.
So if people ask you for a podcast, it's not necessarily me, another operator. You're going to say yes. What's your flexibility like, or what's your flexibility like, and meet in the middle with them, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. I will do more. Yeah, if I'm asked. I've done one a few years ago in America or Canada. Is when I was doing a big fundraiser. But that was good. Yeah, it's interesting. They started talking about things I didn't have a clue about. I did have to say I don't know what you're talking about. Know nothing about the subject.
So how did you spend Christmas then? Was Christmas slightly different to how you would normally spend it, or was it just a normal day in your area?
Yeah, we spent Christmas as we normally do, to be honest. Just the family in the house. We all lived together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
Really. Zoom calls on when you're cutting the carvery or something like that, is there?
No, not at all.
All right.
It was quite nice. At Christmas you either there's a saying, isn't there? You can choose your family, but you can't. You can choose your friends, but not your family.
Exactly correct.
Yeah, so this Christmas it was a bit of a bonus. The ones you didn't want coming around didn't come round. So it was great. No arguing.
Show them the legislation if they did. You're not invited. Rules.
Yeah. No, it was great. We just do what we normally do at Christmas. Had dinner, played a few games, had a few beers. The usual Christmas.
Well, put it this way: give the supermarket your cash for your alcohol beverages, because Wetherspoons, their prices have hiked since this pandemic began. You don't get value deals no more. I've been in there once for that sort of occasion, and there's a deal on here, 3 for a £5. The bottles came out, and I'm looking, well, I could have got a cheaper pack of 4. Yes, probably one variety, but bigger bottles. It's like 250 milliliter, and I'm thinking, that's like probably £1 online, and they're charging me extra. So I think their sort of price band should be a bit of improvement. But yeah, like I said, you get more value for your alcohol consumption in a supermarket than you do in a pub.
Oh yeah, definitely.
This one pub I've been to last year, the year before, called the Blackbirds in South Wales,
Yeah.
by Lantana, and 3 drinks cost me 20 quid. I just can't
Yeah.
work out that could have been mine, to be honest, £5 each. And one had a Coca-Cola and 2 beers, and that price for that, I never went there ever again, and I have no intention to, because that's
Oh,
just ridiculous. I didn't even have a meal for that, mind. That was just that. I'm thinking, God
I went to
blimey.
a pub near me before the last lockdown. Well, before any lockdown, um, and it was the same. Ordered a round of about 6 drinks, met up with some friends, and I was spending about 30 quid. My one friend drinks Guinness. It was £5.50 for a pint of Guinness. I couldn't believe it. It's just a normal pub, nothing special.
No Wi-Fi, no seating that goes up and down, or
No, I know, yeah. They had a garden, that was about it.
do you get like TV? I'm just, that amount of money. That's
Yeah,
just shocking.
I couldn't, I couldn't believe it.
Nor could I. I mean, you could get more for your money in a picture house, and if they sell that well, you could have got a movie and popcorn and probably trains with that price.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, madness. I used to run a pub, and our prices were what the brewery used to give us. They used to tell us we had to sell them at certain prices. And I thought that was expensive. It wasn't really compared to a lot of places. But even though I know how much the beer was being bought in for, and how much profit was going on it. So it was a lot of money.
Yeah. So do you watch any sports then, or anything like that? If you got like anything you like, any sports you like to watch, or
No,
no
no, don't do
sports?
sports. Don't really.
So as you saw this content yourself, then what have you got like a target audience you set at? Is there anyone who wants to listen? Because I'm thinking, if you
Yeah,
write a story, is it appropriate for children just to hop in to listen to that? Because I think they'd be frightened at the
well,
scenery and anything.
probably more the atmospherics would be more frightening than the story themselves. The stories themselves. So the stories are basically just historic stories. So you'll get things about beheadings, which kids learn about those at school. Um, you'll get things about hangings, crimes. But yeah, I wouldn't really I wouldn't really put it towards children.
I think when you do the paranormal, if you're not, you've got to take this very seriously. If it's not aimed at kids, you've got to take prompt action to prevent them from watching it, because
Yeah,
YouTube can't act because of new rules. The thing is,
that's it.
I want to say this because YouTube acts when it comes to rating your videos, but then when it comes to uh, rating people trolling your videos, they just don't give you any controls about it. And like if
That's
you're a
it.
creator, you either got to turn off your live chat or turn it on. If it's on, you've got to do
Yeah,
your actions yourself. If it's off, then you've got nothing to worry about. But you know what I mean? If
yeah,
people like comments things, where's the YouTube helper there? Unless you
yeah,
got to abide by their terms and conditions. I think they need to give a bit more tools for their creators that they can promptly use to block any anonymous accounts and fake accounts.
that's exactly what I should do.
Because in Australia and as well, Australia, it was on Good Morning Britain a couple of days ago. This man used very sickening verbal abuse, and
Yeah,
luckily to her campaign, she prompted for a more rapid response in law.
yeah,
UK haven't got that privilege. USA haven't got that privilege. So, I think they need to really put their act together, really. If the YouTube got the boss around if your content's made for kids, have they got their say about, well, I'm a 12-year-old person who wants to start up YouTube, and then you've got these people who wants to think it's all right to write disturbing things. I'm just thinking it's sickening. That's why I said,
yeah,
as you said, you got children of your own. If they want to start YouTube channels and that's all they ever was going to get, I think, you as a parent yourself, I think, you would be thinking, well, this is horrific.
it is. Yeah, exactly.
So I'm thinking,
I know.
social
I've
media
seen
is good
stories.
and bad, but with what's going on with people accessing social media to cause alarm and distress, it's not really good for
Yeah,
children now as it used to be.
no, I have seen it firsthand as well. When I was working in the schools. They only stopped working in the schools a couple of years ago. And it was some kids were getting bullied online. And I mean, when you haven't been involved in it or not seen it before, which I hadn't seen that before, I didn't realise how bad it was. I thought it was just a bit of name calling, but it weren't. It was
Quite horrific language, I must say.
yeah, but they'd got photos of this lad. It was some other lads who we went to school with in the changing rooms at school and took photos of him on their phone when he was naked.
Oh my Christ, that's quite graphic.
Yeah, so it was really, they all got done for it. But I didn't realise how bad things could be. You know, you don't think of kids doing things like that. I don't think anybody does.
Well, like I said, when they start sneakily asking, can I go on Facebook, that's when you seriously got to put your hand in the pan and think and make a more swift approach on that. Because if you're allowing your children to go on social media, like I said, the risks of it is quite bad. And, like I said, there are people who don't really care who they message and what they do and how they do it. It's like trollers, they come on to a channel, whichever suits their boat, cause disgraceful atmosphere, and let them sort it out. Tell that to the kids who might be suffering from their abuse.
On Instagram alone, the amount of times I get spammed by porn channels.
I know, yeah.
I've never seen so much. I haven't seen so much for years. So I used to get in emails and all sorts of things years ago. All of a sudden now it's hit Instagram. There's no control over it.
You block one, you go block 30,000. That's just horrific.
Yeah. I had somebody phone me up one day telling me he was he opened a fake account and he was pretending to be a guitarist with Chris Holmes, who I know of in America. And he phoned me up asking me if he could borrow some money. No, I don't even know you.
I know.
You're a famous guitarist. Why are you asking to borrow money? He obviously just created the account, saw me with a few guitars, and thought he must have some money.
Because I'm saying, I've only got $2.50 for my cheeseburger. Can I have $1.50 by a bank transfer?
But yeah, as soon as I realised, the best thing was when he phoned me up, he actually sounded drunk as well. This bloke.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
Block you.
The thing is, though, as you are on social media, do you find your time, because, if you were, having non-stop trolls, you probably wouldn't even get around to my message, That's why I think if most creators get up in the followers and they can get spammed, as a genuine user myself, you probably would be thinking, I've got 30 spams to filter out, and then you probably get to the real one after this, and I'm thinking, well, that's just quite, bad, really. I know you get spammed and all, but you've got to differ between spam and real, and that's more time consuming.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, luckily with emails these days, the filters are pretty good, and most of the spam just does go to a spam folder. But yeah, on social media, direct messaging, it's a nightmare.
It is.
I don't know what's what. Anything for. But I know on Instagram you've got the different settings, haven't you, for the general messages and something else, I can't remember what it is. And then you've got the people can send you a request for a message. Same on Facebook. It's the same as well, does it? I find half the time the ones on Facebook don't even come up. It don't even ask me, tell me there's a request, which I'm not really bothered.
Yeah, well, like I said, Facebook, like I said yourself, it doesn't prompt you, which, if I contact you via Facebook, I probably wouldn't even get it in right now, which is luckily of me. But you know what I mean? I think you got to dive into the social media land. You got to, look at everything, because Facebook don't make it easy for the newcomers unless you know pre-handed. You don't really know anything. Instagram, you do get alerts, thankfully, but Facebook and Twitter I would say is all right as well, yeah. But Facebook, it's not slacking.
No, it's I think Facebook more these days has gone more towards personal use, as in just people interacting with each other on a personal level, usually friends and family. I noticed from myself doing music and marketing it over the internet in the past, Facebook's never done me any favours. It's even when I've paid for advertising, it's never been any good on that. But my friends and family hear it, that's about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you do get the odd chance where people are interested and the page gets shared around for certain things. But yeah, I think it's died a death for advertising and marketing. So it's not as good as it used to be.
I think, Twitter, Instagram is the main. Facebook, I got a page on, which I haven't posted on there really because it's focused on like you're reviewing like restaurants, something which I haven't been able to do since last year, which is really bad for 2021 if you ask me, because that page probably won't have a post now till March at least. Which people look at this and no post since December, but blame what we got around us, blame what's in the air. People need to be a bit more aware, really. I would happily post every day if I could on my Facebook page, but it's never that simple. You've got to follow what everyone says. Stay at home, and I can't post saying something like, "Oh, I've had jack and potato for tea at lunch." It's not in a restaurant. It won't sound the same, will it? So that's why it's been deserted since last month, but it's beyond control.
That's it.
So have you got like any last questions like to ask?
Not that I can think of.
No,
Not that I can think of.
so what's your flexibility then? Would you like to come back on the show at some point, or it can be fully flexible after your first podcast or next month? A podcast or a regular regime of the channel. So we'd be happy to have you back.
Yeah, why not?
If I haven't talked you out already, that is.
No.
Well, I said, so what date then will your podcast come out this month? Have you got a date in mind? 30th, 31st?
I can't remember what it is. It's going to be the last Saturday of the month.
Last Saturday. That's going to be the 30th then. Yeah, 30th.
I can't remember what it was.
Well, that's the last Saturday. So that will be uploaded to YouTube then.
It'll be on YouTube. I'll put it on Podbean. It'll be on Spotify, iTunes, everything.
What's the user for those services then?
What's my username on it?
Yeah, to find your podcast.
It'll be Ghost Tales by the Fireside.
Ghost Tales by the Fire. I have heard of that name.
Oh, okay.
I might not listen to your work, but that name rings a bell. Not sure in what sense. But it does surely ring a bell. I'll write that down.
The page. I've only had a page on Instagram for, I don't know. I think I put it up about a year ago. Didn't touch anything until recently. It's just gaining followers. I just think from the name.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Would you release little snippets on your social media then, when it comes out?
I've done one last night. Released one last night.
Because I think if you've got social media, you've got to use it. You can't use it to not use it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I said, though, with all that safety tips in mind, as the generation goes on, it makes it more and more recommended to give anybody these safety tips because, it is not nice to be bullied online. Like I said, it's actions in person. When it comes to online, you can be anonymous, no track, no trace, no nothing. And that's spalling, really, because if action can be taken in person, have their station online. What's the difference in that? Yeah, you're on a keyboard, but when you meet this person in real life, would you say these to this person? People can say anything on a keyboard because they're anonymous. They want to hide their face. It's like that's how there's more and more scams coming online. Totally anonymous. And in a way, yeah, carry on.
Saying sticks and stones break my bones, but names will never hurt me. That's not for everybody, is it?
No, it's not.
I'd rather someone punch me in the eye than call me something for